Hi, this is Miles from Milestone Investing, and let me just talk you through an article. Today, by the way, is the 15th of March, 2018, and an article came across my desk, my research desk this morning, and it was talking about the fire sale of the Bitcoin from the MT Gox exchange, and they were saying that that was the reason for the Bitcoins going down in value and losing their value from going from $20,000 in mid-December to approximately $6,000 and then bounce back up to 2,000, 8,000, sorry. They're saying that was the reasons why. And I want to basically explore if that's the truth. So on the screen, we can see that a character called Nobuaki Kobayashi has been given the assets of MT Gox, the Bitcoin exchange, to basically get rid of and dispose of the assets for the benefit of the creditors. Okay, and so in essence, he sells it here on the 22nd of December, and he sells 6,000 Bitcoins, and he makes about $80 million. The Bitcoins drop out of this downward channel, goes back up again. 1, 2, 3, 4 days later, it flies right back up, hits the top of the channel, and continues to fall inside the same channel. So we had a 4-day effect. But essentially, the market was falling before he entered. He causes it to fall, and then 4 days later, it continues inside the same down channel. And so I would argue that he caused this blip, but he did not cause that channel to be created. He's not responsible for that. And then you've got the upward movement of the next phase, where it starts to retrace upwards. It then hits a ceiling, can't go any further, and then it starts to fall again. And it goes into this downward channel, this one right here. And Nobuaki Kobayashi sells on the 17th of January, he sells 8,000 Bitcoins right here, and he makes $86 million. And again, this spike out of the Bollinger Band and out of the channel, he caused that. But 2 days later, 3 days later, it's back inside that channel. And because it's a declining channel, it continues to fall. It continues to fall. And then on the 5th of February, he basically gets 18,000 Bitcoins from 3 different wallets, and he then makes them available for sale. He actually sells 4,000 of the 18 on the 7th of February. He makes $32 million right here. The next day, it bounces up. The day after that, on the 7th of February, he sells 4,000 more Bitcoins, and he makes this time $32 million. And it still keeps going up. The next day, on the 8th of February, he sells 4,000 Bitcoins, and it continues going up. And then on the 9th of February, he sells 10,000 Bitcoins, and he makes $86 million, and the price goes up. All of this is an up channel. Okay, so the notion that he's responsible for the fall is not borne out completely by this chart. This chart says that the slide was actually in place before he started selling into the market. And so I can honestly say those who are pointing their fingers at him are not really they haven't got the full picture. He is not responsible for this. And so if I look, why did he sell? Okay, well, if you look here, RSI is telling you the price is basically too expensive, and MACD basically crosses right here, and it crosses literally the day before he gets in. And so basically, I believe someone in Kobayashi's team had basically told him the price is basically heading down, and he starts to get rid of them at the best price he can get. But he's not the cause of this downward channel. All he does, he makes it spike. That's him. That spike is definitely him. But then 4 days later, it's back in the channel and it continues falling as normal. And then here, this sell, he spikes it out. That's him as well. He causes that. But then 4 days later, it's back in the channel and it continues to fall. So he just caused a little dimple or ripple in the normal volatility of that particular asset class. So, but what's more important than figuring out whether or not he's responsible for the decline? What's is actually on the cards is in September. He is going. There's going to be a judgment. So let me give you the backstory on this company, just so that it becomes obvious why all of these things have come into play. So I'm going to basically tell you a quick history of Bitcoin. 2009, Satoshi Nakamoto creates something called Bitcoin. By about 2010, a man called Jed McCaleb is selling something called, basically he's exchanging magic cards for Bitcoins, and he's doing it online. And he does this for a while, and that begins to become quite successful. And just by accident, he ends up creating an exchange for Bitcoin itself. And he is then joined by a man called Mark Karpels, who's a Frenchman, who then starts working with him. And they're basically based in Japan. They're both working in Japan. And they incorporate in Japan, and he becomes the CEO of the company. About 2011, somebody hacks one of the accounts of one of their clients and steals $45,000. That spooks Jed, and he decides that he doesn't really want to be involved with this company anymore. And so he decides to leave. And he leaves his partner, Mark Caples, in charge. Now, Mark Caples is now the sole person in charge of this particular company, this exchange. And around, I think it was around June the 11th, somebody stole the private passwords to what they call hot wallets. And so the hot wallet private keys were stolen. And from 2012 and 2013, for 2 years, money was being siphoned out of these wallets, out of the wallets of the clients from Mt. Gox, Mt. Gox. I'm pronouncing it Mt. Gox, okay? And then from 2014, so February 2014, he actually declares to, I don't know, the press, to whoever, that he's discovered a heist that has taken place. And he has no idea, he says, where the money's gone. All he knows is that the money from the clients have disappeared. Okay, obviously everybody's upset, and they were wanting to basically, hang him, for, in essence, their stolen money. Okay, on February the 28th, he files for bankruptcy. February 28th, 2014. An investigation is conducted by the FBI to find out what's going on. And clearly Mark is obviously the main person who everybody is looking at, because they're saying you're the only one with the passwords for this particular database of accounts, so it must be you. But anyway, July 2017, the FBI charged a man called Alexander Vinnik, who ran another exchange, a competing exchange called Bitcoin Exchange. And they find in his possession 530,000 stolen Bitcoins that came from Mt. Gox, that ended up in wallets either he owned or he controlled. And that's 2017, okay? And so he went to the bankruptcy, Mt. Gox went to the bankruptcy in 2014, And in 2017, they start to recover the missing stolen money or the missing stolen Bitcoin. Okay. And so, but because this company is basically in receivership, what you now have is this company is now controlled by effectively accountants who are basically selling off their assets so they can pay off their creditors. Now, here is what's interesting, because this is a Japanese company, and under Japanese bankruptcy rules, Article 127 of the Japanese Bankruptcy Code says this, that when you register for bankruptcy, the assets get valued, any liabilities you have get valued at a price that was relevant at that time. And so the date they choose to value the Bitcoins to be sold for the purposes of giving it back to their creditors, they value it at $500. Now, as you know, and that was in 2014, as you know, the price of Bitcoin is not $500 right now. It's much, much more. And so the current owners of those Bitcoins that's been found, the missing Bitcoins, the owners of those missing Bitcoin that's been found, they're saying, hang on, we don't want the $400, $500. We want the Bitcoin. Because if they get the Bitcoin, they can get $8,000, not for $500. Okay. Now, if it gets sold, it's for if they get sold and they get $500 each, who gets the remaining money? And the remaining money goes to the former CEO of Mt. Gox, Mark Caples. So he clearly wants it to go ahead and stay in liquidation, and the creditors want it to be taken out of liquidation so they can get their assets back. Anyway, according to the Financial Times of in December 17, they reported that 4 major creditors filed a petition in the court to pull Mt. Gox out of bankruptcy so that they can actually get their Bitcoins back and not have them sold and then receive only $500. If they win the case, if the creditors win the case, then they get their Bitcoins back, and obviously at the value at what it is today. If they lose the case, the Bitcoins get sold in the marketplace for $500, and they will get $500 of whatever it's sold for, and the balance will go to obviously the Mt. Gox company, and I believe Mark owns about 88% of the shares. So him and his shareholders will get all that money, and they're going to be rich people. What is very interesting is that so far, Nobuaki Kobayashi has sold 32,000 Bitcoins, as we can see on the screen. There is another 166,000 Bitcoins he needs to sell. Now, the court doesn't, the court case doesn't come to court until the 18th of December, 2018. And so this particular person has been told he can't sell any more Bitcoins until then. If the creditors lose the case, he's going to basically put 166,000 Bitcoins into the market, and that's going to have the effect of making Bitcoins go down. Okay, so you're going to see a crash, or you're going to see a dip in Bitcoin valuations from September because of the activities of Nobuaki Kobayashi. However, if the creditors win their case, these Bitcoins won't go onto the market. They'll go back to the creditors who the coins belong to in the first place. And if it goes back to the creditors, then you won't get a dip at all. Okay? And like I said, he is not the cause. In my opinion, he is not the cause of this. And so, yeah, we will see what happens. Now, the argument, the actual case going to court is this. What they're saying that because all of these assets are in liquidation, they want the bankruptcy proceedings to actually they want to take the company out of bankruptcy, is what they're really saying. They want to take it out of bankruptcy, out of liquidation. They want to take it out of that position, and then basically they'd be given back their Bitcoins. And they want the Bitcoins, not the money. Because if they get sold and they get the money, they're only going to get $500 per Bitcoin. So that's basically the issues that's on the table for Bitcoin at the moment. This future court case and which way the judge decides. What's also interesting is I believe Goldman Sachs has stepped in to the virtual currency game, and they're investing in some of these exchanges. And with their investments in this particular asset class, I think they could also be a stabilizing force. So you don't really have to have the Bitcoins go down in value because they have to be put into the market. Personally, if I was Nobuaki Kobayashi, I'm not sure I'd put it into the market. What I would do, I would actually give it to another exchange. I'd just basically sell it to Goldman Sachs. Let them take it on board, because by them taking it on board, they can actually restrict the supply and therefore keep the price up. And it's a much better deal for everybody concerned that that's the case. It preserves the value of this particular asset class. But if, on the other hand, that doesn't happen, he puts it into the marketplace, you can expect the share prices to fall. Okay, I hope you found that useful in explaining whether or not the article had put their finger on the real reasons for the decline in the share price of Bitcoin. And in my understanding and in my analysis, I'm going to suggest the answer is no. It was already on a decline, and Nobuaki Kobayashi, I just think basically what he did, he's basically selling because he saw it was falling. And he's basically selling to try and get as good a price as possible. Maybe, you know, if it kept on rising, he'd wait. But and I have to admit, I'm a little bit suspicious as to why 2017 saw a massive rise in the price of Bitcoin. And after finding out that the person who stole the Bitcoins, or allegedly stole the Bitcoins from the Mt. Gox exchange, his name is Alexander Vinnik. He was charged in 2017 July 2017 by the FBI. And this is more than likely a reason why there was renewed enthusiasm for this particular asset class, because obviously the money's been found and everyone's got their money back. And so there's a big euphoria and excitement around this. So that could easily explain the 2017 rush upwards. But ultimately, will it stay here? I don't know, and we will see. Anyway, I hope you found that useful. Take care, guys. Bye now.